Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have the best co-pilot ever in the house today. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Superman flying in today. I love it. I love it. Your superpower is teaching, and that's what we're about today, Jeff. But before we get stuck in, please let everybody know who you are and what you do, and then we'll get rolling.
All right. Well, thank you again. As usual, I say good morning to you, good afternoon to the folks in my time zone, good evening to the folks across the pond. Namaste. My name is Jeff Young, and I am called the LinkedIn Guru because my network calls me that. If you look up guru in the dictionary, you see the word teacher, and that is exactly what I've been doing. And as you say, that's really what my superpower is. That's exactly what I've been doing for the last 16 years. Well, all my life to some degree, but the last 16 years I've been teaching LinkedIn. And in those 16 years, that accounts for about 950 to 1,000 seminars. It also accounts for about 18,000 to 20,000 students. Okay, and that's just the folks I've touched directly. That has nothing to do with the ripple effect of people who take my advice and take it to somebody else and give it to somebody else. And hopefully I've helped, who knows? I mean, could be millions of people. It's not like a billion on like it is on LinkedIn now, but hopefully it's up there in the seven figures.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And so my finger got twitchy, so I already hit the banner, but here we go. We are talking about back to basics, which is mastering LinkedIn 101. And the reason why we decided to talk about this today is we recently released a video clip talking about premium versus the free version of LinkedIn. And we had the discussion that so many people are so quick to start paying LinkedIn money before they've got the basics done. So it's like you see people with like no banners and all those other things, but they're like on the gold plan of LinkedIn and you're like, stop. So we just wanted to kind of like pull everybody back and say, get the basics before you run. You got to learn to crawl and then walk. And so that's why we thought this was an important topic. And it's not just for newbies. It's not just for newbies, right, Jeff? Because we meet people that have been on LinkedIn for a long time and they're like, oh, I didn't realize I had that up there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and from the perspective of basics, there's LinkedIn's definition of basics, which you mentioned, I think in the show notes, that it calls an all-star. Exactly. And that all that really represent, and that's what LinkedIn calls a complete profile. That is so far off. Yeah, that's so much of a misnomer. It's amazing, because you fill in 7 blanks and LinkedIn calls you complete, and you're an all-star. No, it takes a lot more than that, believe me. And so we're going to approach this and talk about profile things, and we're going to talk about things from the all-star perspective, the 7 things that it takes to be an all-star. But then we're going to talk about each of those things in view of the goals that you should have. Is if you're a beginner, if you very first started on LinkedIn, the goal is to have a complete profile in LinkedIn terms. The reason all-star profile or complete profile is so important is the fact that the statistics that I've always seen say that people who have a complete profile, okay, are 40 times more likely to get found in search.
Wow.
And exactly. So it used to be that about 50% of the people on LinkedIn didn't have a complete profile. So I used to talk in my seminars all the time. It's like okay, if you want to show up by the way, that was back in the days when there was about 500 million people on LinkedIn. Okay, but I said, if you want to show up in the bottom half of 500 million people in a search result, well, then don't complete your profile. Bad idea, right? And then the next step, though, the next goal is to have what we would call an optimized profile. And we'll talk about the differences between the two things as we go through these one by one.
Okay, sounds good. So let's kick off item number 1, industry and location. And I remember I got this wrong that was one of the first things that you said, Gillian, you need to make some changes because I had Las Vegas. So can you tell people what you suggested I do?
Well, okay, first of all, I suggested that you use the Las Vegas metropolitan area, which gives you Las Vegas and all the surrounding counties, et cetera. And I've done the same thing on mine. if I said Columbus, Ohio, and I don't know whether LinkedIn's changed the way the search results work now or not, who can tell? But I know that back then, and it's probably still a good idea now, to make it a larger than Columbus, Ohio area based on the 43220 area code that I've got. But I now call it Columbus, Ohio metropolitan area, which includes a much bigger population of people. Okay, so that's important because that will help you get found from that perspective as well. Okay, now and when it comes to industry, okay, that one's really important because LinkedIn, I'm trying to remember how, I think it was earlier this year, pretty early this year, LinkedIn changed the industry codes. So no matter whether or not you've got industry on your profile or not, you should look at industry now, and you should go out there and start to try to type it in again. And you should make sure that when it comes up, when the pull down pops up in the suggested ones, that your industry is in there, because that is extremely important as well. Shout out to our good buddy from Dallas, Texas, or actually the Fort Worth, Dallas metro area, based on location. Okay, Kevin D. Turner, because Kevin D. Turner talks about market value titles. When you're talking about industry, you need to make sure that that industry matches, because that is, especially from a job seeker standpoint or any search standpoint, one of the keys that recruiters and other people will search on is you looking for a particular skill in a particular industry. So you need to make sure that your industry matches one of those market value titles. Okay. And there aren't that many of them, really. You're going to have to pick out from a fairly small list, but you should start typing it. Make sure that that's the one that comes in there. Okay. So that's optimizing the location and industry both, right? But just having them is one thing, but optimizing them so that you get found is another.
Now, what about people? I notice a lot of people do like too big, like they'll do for location United States. And when I see United States, that to me is a red flag that maybe you're not even in the United States. It's not, I don't think it's a good idea. What do you think?
It's got a bad connotation. It may be bigger in terms of a search result or something along those lines, but it's got a bad connotation because people want to know you're a real person from a real place. And I can't put, Oz, okay, back to one of our favorite things, the Wizard of Oz. I can't put Oz as a location, right? It just isn't right. So try to keep it down. Again, well, here's another thing about location, okay? You only get to choose one, right? So the point being is that that's only one blank that you can fill in. The point here is that if you're a job seeker, as an example, in Columbus, Ohio, but your target location is St. Louis, Missouri, guess where you should be from on LinkedIn? St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, now it's not lying, it's just saying that there's where I want to be, there's where I'm targeting my job search. So that's a really good thing to do in that respect as well. But focus it. I think the idea is to focus it as much as you can so that it comes off the correct way as real.
I like that. And I think by knowing where you're located, then we also get a sense of your time zone. So I think that's really important as well. So that's good. Okay. Number 2 is current position. So can you explain exactly what that means? Is that in your experience section? Is that your headline at the top? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, this is the experience section. Right now, the help on LinkedIn actually just says position. It doesn't say current position. Okay. This used to make a big difference to job seekers because when they turned off, if you will, they're not currently working at their previous position, LinkedIn would take them out of all-star status. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So, and again, that you don't get found if you're not an all-star, right? So I always used to give people the piece of advice that if you've got to have a position, but you should have a current position. And if you don't have a current position because you were in the job search process, you should put a current position that represents what you're doing now. For example, for the last umpteen years, okay, I have a position that is me as the LinkedIn guru. I'm not working for a living, but it's not a real job, but it needs to be there so that I can tell people what it is that I do in that real job so they can find me. And especially when you put, text inside of there as well, you need the right keywords that describe what you want to do if you're a job seeker, what you do now as another one. And One small thing here too is that's related to position is that if you're going to have a company, okay, it is almost always best to have a company that is a real company on LinkedIn, real to LinkedIn anyway, right? Because that will bring up the logo with you, and that way you are not blank and nothing there as well. So it comes across as more professional.
Right, right. Super, super. Okay, next one is education section.
Education, you've got to have something in there. Even if you don't have a degree, you've got to have something in there. So again, my advice, having one is the basic, okay, but optimizing it is putting something out there that will, again, allow you to put some keywords that people can see, and also allow you to, even if you are matriculating for a degree, tell somebody that you've got that degree on your profile, okay, because that's another search that they sometimes do. You've got that degree on your profile, but be honest and say in the text about it that you are going to get this degree in May of whatever year, et cetera, right? So again, but it's an important section. It's not necessarily a section that's totally related to how you get found, but it is, once you get found, they're going to look at that very, very frequently.
And it's a great way too for, opening up some doors, because people might say, "Oh, I used to go to York University too." You've got some talking points there.
Exactly.
So I think that's really
There
good.
was another post that I saw earlier today that was related to that as well, because if you're finding that, you can actually then go to that very same place on LinkedIn and find some alumni that you might be working at some place that you're interested in working, and therefore you can network with them, because and that's your opening line. You and I both went to Podunk University. Okay, well, sorry. Or the Ohio State University, which is where the LinkedIn guru kind of comes from as well. But you can open the conversation that way as well.
I love it. I love it. Okay, next one is profile photo. This is a big one, and this should be updated. Dated.
Exactly. So obviously, the not having one at all, okay, is not going to work. You're going to have to put some picture up there, okay. But it really, the rubber really meets the road here in terms of how that represents you, because profile photo is one of the three things that follows you everywhere on LinkedIn. Your name, your headline, and your profile photo. And by the way, none of the 7 of these things is your professional headline. You don't even have to have a headline in order to have a complete profile on LinkedIn terms. But if you don't have a profile headline, you're probably not doing yourself any favors. Okay.
Right.
But from the proto, blah, blah. Sorry, too much coffee or not enough, I'm not sure which. From the profile photo standpoint, okay, the idea is that there are certain best practices here. Okay. First of all, it should be a picture of you, usually only you. Okay. Which sometimes I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers here, but I almost always advise people that you and your kitty cat Fluffy belong on Facebook. Stay off my LinkedIn, okay? Unless, of course, you own a cat treats business.
Right.
Then it might actually be a part of your brand. So I'll go with that one, okay? And if you really love pets, I'm not telling you can't do that, okay? So go for it if you really want to. But it's really supposed to be you and only you. Secondly, they don't call this thing a headshot for nothing. Okay, that means that pretty much you need most of your head in there, and the rule of thumb is that your face should take up about 60% of that circle. Now, the reason that that's important is that we all know that we use LinkedIn on this little itty bitty device as well, right?
Your phone.
Exactly. Your smartphone. Okay. And if you're smart, you'll make your picture big enough so that you can actually recognize who you are when you're looking at it on a small screen as well. Okay?
True. And I would also add that it's a good practice to have your photo consistent across all social media platforms, so that if I see you on LinkedIn and then I go over to YouTube, it's not like and I'm like, is this the right person? And then I go to Twitter and I go to all these different places. If it's a different picture of you, I'm having to spend too much time trying to figure it out. So just be consistent across all your profiles.
Yes, good point.
That you use the same one. You use the same
Two more things about photo, okay, before we move on, is that, first of all, it's also a good idea that you are facing the camera, making eye contact with the person. It is also a great idea if you actually smile, okay? Because when I see somebody who's got a scowl on their face, that's not very inviting, et cetera. Okay. So it makes a good point that you actually make it inviting, make it something that would, that is inviting people to actually connect with you. And again, another thing is that you need to make sure that I also almost always recommend that you don't have to, because if you can take a really good selfie, it's fine. But I'm not, you know me, Gillian, I'm not a selfie person. Honestly, I would rather beat myself with a selfie stick than take one, okay, with it. But that's just me. But the point is that you probably ought not have cropped out a picture of you at that last party where you actually didn't look like you were all completely sober. And oh, there might even be that ghost hand that is on your shoulder. Oh my goodness, that creeps
Creepy.
me out.
Creepy. So let me just ask you quick. What about all the people using AI photos? What do you think of that? I don't feel it builds trust when I see an AI photo.
I agree. I'd have to agree with that one. They look okay. They're nice. I've had people make photos for me that actually make me look younger than I am. And as much as I'd like to appear that way, I went recently with a photo that looks pretty much like what I'm looking like right now. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Because I always feel that if I got on a Zoom call with you, I would like to not go, oh, if I do that, something's not right.
Yep. Long ago, in a galaxy far away. Sorry, Star Wars reference, but we're about to have a Star Trek reference. I come back to this all the time as well. Look, just because I've been on LinkedIn and I'm the LinkedIn guru doesn't mean that I've never made mistakes, okay? Profile photo wise, when I got on there, I was treating it a little bit too much like Facebook, and my profile photo was a picture of Captain James T. Kirk. Uh-oh. Now, people who knew me went, oh yeah, that's him, the Star Trek geek. Oh, yeah, they'll connect with me, right? But I was also representing a couple and being on the board for a couple of nonprofits at the time as well. And my network of those nonprofits kept me honest and said, it would be really nice if you maybe represent us slightly differently than just Star Trek. And I went, you're right. I agree with you. Live long and prosper. I'll change my photo.
Yep. And I did the same thing, and it was based on Nigel Cliff. I'll give him a shout out because I absolutely love Nigel across the pond. And he was coming on my LinkedIn Live, and we were talking about how our profiles build trust and photos. And somehow I at that time I had sunglasses. I was always wearing sunglasses in my profile photo. And it was just because it was a happy photo, and I just love the photo because it was my happy place by the ocean. But then it was like, in honor of Nigel coming on, I recognized that it didn't build trust, because if you see somebody with sunglasses, you're just like, what are you hiding behind those sunglasses? And so I decided I just take them off, and ever since, and so that was because of Nigel, because
it's cool if you're a movie star, I guess, but probably not a normal person.
That's right. Okay, so this one has a question mark because maybe some things have changed, but at least 50 connections. And that does seem to make sense. You don't want to be, otherwise you don't want to be in a room by yourself going, LinkedIn, not much is happening. I have no connections.
Yeah, it's about networking. So yeah, you probably should have. I think this might have used to have been a requirement for All-Star, but it probably isn't so much anymore. I think where this comes off though is in terms of, you really want to make sure that your network is there so that you can start the process. Okay, so from the basic standpoint. Now, by the way, if anybody wants to check any of this stuff, I looked at this before. That's why this is a question mark. I looked at the help for this before we got on today, and that's why this one's a question mark, because that's possibly an older requirement. And if anybody wants to find it, it's under the LinkedIn help. Go to the LinkedIn help and type in the words profile meter, METER, okay? Because that's what you will see if you're not an All-Star. You'll see
like a little progress meter.
And it's a progress meter, exactly. So it will tell you, and oh, by the way, LinkedIn, this is one of the few times that I tell people to actually do this. By the way, if you're not completely an All-Star or complete, when you complete, it disappears, okay? But when you're not complete, it has that meter, it has that graph, and shows you how complete you are. And it used to do suggestions. So take into account what LinkedIn is telling you to do, because that will get you again up to the complete all-star standpoint. So that's one of them that might not be required anymore, but to me, that's kind of a
Makes
requirement in
sense.
order to network. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And and if you're not sure who to connect with, at least start following people, because otherwise you don't have anything in your feed. And that's kind of like that's one of those things where you think everybody knows this and they don't. And that's
Yeah.
where we have the curse of knowledge. Because I've had so many people who are newbies say, I don't know what you
Who should I?
mean comment on stuff. I don't
Yeah.
see anything to comment on. Well, it's because they were connected with inactive people, so they didn't see anything in their feed. So you have to
Exactly.
follow
Yeah.
good folks that will bring some great stuff. Like
Absolutely.
Jeff. Follow Jeff.
Thank you very much. Yes, please do. Well, and to me, this is always the advice that I give to folks is that, look, if you're first starting out, you want to build a network, right? So where should you build your network from first? People you already know.
No.
And
Yeah.
if those people are on LinkedIn and they're at any stretch of imagination active on LinkedIn, they're great people to connect with, because you're going to see some stuff from them, just like you said before. But then once you've got that basic network, then you could start trying to connect with people that you don't know but need to know. Okay, because your network can start to introduce you to those people, especially since connections is one of those little basic things that people don't look at very much anymore. You can go to your connections and one of your connections, click on a number of connections, and then see all the people they're connected with, so that you can maybe find somebody that you need to know, and then
Love
ask
it.
that person to introduce you. Again, that's what
Love it.
LinkedIn's all about, is network.
It is. It is. Okay, the next one is a minimum of 5 skills.
Yep.
And what's the max that you can actually, like, minimum is 5, but
Yep.
what's the maximum? 50?
Maximum that LinkedIn will allow you to put on your profile is 50. Okay. Which is quite a few. I've never
That's a
reached the
lot.
50 myself. It's a bunch. Okay. But again, having the minimum of 5, and it may have changed the number minimum. I don't know. Maybe it's a minimum of 3, whatever. But you need to have skills. That's how you get to be all-star. Is you've got to have some skills on your profile. The next step, though, is to optimize those skills. And again, from what we said before, those market value titles, this is one of the most important things, because this is one of the 4 areas of your profile that will be sure to help you get found especially when you're in a job search. So again, when you're typing in a skill and adding a skill, try to pick the one that is from the drop-down list. And as a matter of fact, here's a little ad hoc, interesting little story, which I said it that way on purpose, because I was having a comments conversation with one of our buddies as well. Shout out across the pond to Craig Allen. Okay. And Craig said, that he was going to put out his book about storytelling, secrets of a storyteller, right? And I said, hey, Craig, you know what? You probably ought to add storytelling as a skill. And because that will help get you found, as a storyteller, because you're going to focus on that since you're going to have a book about it, right? And then, and in addition to that, now the next thing you do as far as optimizing is concerned is reorder your skills so you put them up at the top. Now that used to be top 3. That also has changed. LinkedIn now doesn't do 3s; it does 2s. Okay, so there's only 2 skills that you can show without expanding the list. But reordering your skills is a way to also maximize and optimize your profile. So, Craig gave me a great illustration of that, and he's already done it. He did it. He did it like that with no time at all.
And then we can go and endorse him now. So that makes him, that helps with the optimization. So think about the skills that you'd like people to endorse you with.
Yep.
Okay. So let's quickly do
Yeah.
the last one, which is your about or your summary section.
Right.
So
again, having something out there is important, because but you could put 5 words out there and be done. Okay. You get 2,600 characters here. So just putting something in your about is not good enough. What you really need to do, this is a really good place as well, because this is, again, one of the places where keywords make a huge difference. So you need to sprinkle the keywords in your about section. Again, I think a rule of thumb is that your about section really needs to be about what you do and how you add value. And that usually means that sometimes I even describe it as being not about you, but about your customers, but
Mm.
about the target audience that you're trying to find. Okay, so
How do you help?
that makes a
How do
huge
you
difference
help?
as well. So,
Yep.
I'm sorry, say
And don't do third person.
okay,
Don't-
and thank you for mentioning that. Again, I never say never to anybody, but if you just copied your resume on there, that's not going to look very good, and it's not going to be very impressive, and it's stuff they already saw on your resume anyway. So now
Right.
making this a conversation and making it in first person is really good. Now, I will also tell you though that again, I don't even necessarily follow my own rules when it doesn't really give me the best advantage, because I have third person, I have both. I have first person and I have third person in mind. One of the reasons that in my about section it has third person is because I designate a certain area of my about section as a speaker bio.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So
That's a
if
good
somebody
idea.
wants to me as a speaker bio, I just point into my about section and they can copy and paste it to their heart's desire.
That's brilliant. That's
Thank you.
brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, so we have a ton of comments.
Hey, she got the
We've
pick
got
of the
Mary
day.
Wu missing you in the front row, so that's always great. And she says, "Oh,
Thank
because
you, Mary.
he's on the show today. He's on the show
Oh, I
today."
can't believe
So we have our lovely Debbie. Hey there, happy to be in the front row. I love all the people in the front row. That's great. We've got Jacqueline. I'm really looking forward to this. There's been a few changes on LinkedIn lately, and that's not beneficial to me. So this probably addresses that, Jeff, that it's like, this is why you want to continue to monitor your basics,
yes,
because follow Kevin, Kevin D.
yes.
Turner, to know about the new features. But
And again,
this is,
that basic, well, the new features are important, but that basic rule that we talked about before, I can't emphasize this enough. Even though you might have picked something from before, if they changed an industry and you're no longer in that industry list, you are up a creek.
yep.
So you should go back and double check that kind of stuff all the time. And Kevin says this one as well. He and I have had several discussions on this one lately. Thank you, Kevin, for validating what I thought. Okay, it is really honestly a good idea for you to go in and make changes to your profile fairly regularly, because
Mm,
changes to your profile are also called activity, and the
mm,
algorithm likes activity.
mm.
Okay? So now it's time to do a little audit of your profile and go back through and look at some of those things that might not be as beneficial as Jacqueline says.
So maybe a once a month audit would be good,
Yeah.
just to make sure, is everything good? Is everything good?
Yep.
Fran says, good morning, all from sunny
West Coast.
Stevensonville Village in Richmond, BC. It's got to be beautiful out there today, Fran. I love that.
Yep.
Okay, Marcia, she says, what's happening? Jillian and Jeff checking in from the nation's capital.
Hi,
Always
Marcia.
wonderful to see our Marcia.
Oh,
We have
Sarah.
Sarah Burgess
Across
here.
the
Good
pond.
evening from the UK. Great to see you both whilst I'm getting dinner ready. So we always play for the ears so that people can multitask. Al says, hi,
Phoenix,
everybody from Phoenix. And we've got Marcia again, crawl, walk, run. That's about how it is on LinkedIn, Marcia,
Yep.
that it's like,
Yep.
it's always about those baby steps, and we can't just run. We have to go through all of these basics. Correct, Jeff?
If you look at my profile is the product of 16 years worth of changes and things that needed to get done to it, and taking advantage of the new features when they applied to me and there was an advantage.
Exactly. We have the lovely John Asperian. No one is better to teach LinkedIn basics than our guru, Jeff.
Thank you, Big
That's
John.
very nice. That's very nice. We have G's. I'm listening live while I'm working on trying to figure out a couple of LinkedIn tech issues. Well, that's always how it goes, isn't it? Gail says, hi, LinkedIn family. Happy to log in from Barbados to get these gems from Gillian and Jeff.
All over the
Thank
world
you.
today.
Thank you. Lawrence says, hey, everybody, coming in from Nashville today. We've got somebody from Detroit coming in. Have an all-star profile. She's got the stars up. And it's so true. It's so true, Jeff. It's so true. I love it. I love it.
Okay, people can have an all-star profile, but there's so many people. Oh, by the way, here's, again, I said we could do lots of stuff on profile photo. Here's another one as well. You may have a really great looking profile photo like Craig Langley. Thank you. Shout out to Craig Langley because I talked to him earlier today as well. Thank you. Okay. And by the way, the thing is though, one of the other optimizations that you should make is that you should click on your profile photo as if you're going to edit it. then look down to the lower left, and there should be something there that's called visibility.
Mm,
And if you're only visible to your connections, you're shortchanging yourself because you
mhm.
get new connections by having a trust factor and them seeing your face. So I almost always recommend that it really should say anyone. Okay, and
Yep.
that also, by the way, means that that people don't even have to be logged on to LinkedIn. If they see your profile out in the internet, okay, from a Google search, they'll still see your profile photo. So
Right.
make sure that
Right.
visibility is changed too.
And for instance, coming on a show like this, if we show the comments and you have not
Blank
made
head.
your profile photo visible, publicly, then you show up as the blank head, and
That's
we
correct.
don't know afterwards, will go back and we'll see, "Oh, it was Sarah," or,
Yeah,
whatever, but we don't see it live, and it's kind of a missed opportunity, so
absolutely. Well,
but there are some people that purposely
do that.
do not choose to do that, and
I
totally
understand.
respect that because everybody always has their reasons.
I
So
always offer my tip about being able to do it, and they can take it or leave it. That's fine because again, as one of the best teachers I've ever seen is a teacher who will show you where to look but not tell you what to see. Okay, and it makes a big difference when you come forward with that attitude.
that's right. That's right. So we have Jeremy Ben Israel. Greetings from sunny Florida. It's always good to go back to basics. That's where it starts. Looking forward to your event, Gillian and Jeff. And I have to say, this is one of the few profile photos that are not real that I actually think look pretty darn good. I've
If that
noticed.
looks, oh, I don't know Jeremy, but if that looks like Jeremy, it's perfectly fine. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that maybe what I like about this one as opposed to some of the others is that this is based on I've actually gone to this website, so I know how this website works. And they actually take your existing photo and then kind of morph it
Yeah.
and make it look a little bit different. Whereas the true AI ones, they're just like odd. Like
Yeah. Yeah. They look
just
a
some
little
of them
strange.
look so odd. You're
Yeah.
just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you don't look like a real person anymore."
I think the nice part about Jeremy's photo is that it kind of almost looks like a painting as opposed to a photo,
Hmm.
which is a good thing. I mean, that's not necessarily bad. Okay.
No, no, that's good. That's good. So Jeff, let me just see. I got one extra comment here from Craig. He's saying
Oh,
he too is busy with the tech issues. So Jeff, Zoom 30 minutes.
I knew it.
We at least got through our agenda today, which was the all-star profiles. Always a reason just to have you come back, Jeff, because I think this stuff is so important. Please know that we will now go through comments and we will address comments.
Exactly.
And then for anyone on the podcast, just know that we love you and we send you love because we can't address the podcast comments. But Jeff, before we wrap up today, is there any kind of like final words of wisdom that you'd have to say about back to basics?
Just follow LinkedIn's instructions when it comes to getting an all-star profile. But find somebody who can mentor you through, who's been around the LinkedIn barn a couple of times and will be able to help you in terms of, oh no, go here and tweak this and change that, because that's who you will need to optimize your profile. And we know lots of people, I'm not even going to mention any, but almost every
There's
one
too
of our
many.
connections, yeah, almost all of, one of our connections can help people optimize your profile, and so can I. So if you've got a question, put it in the comments. If you've got a question, DM me somehow, put it in one of my other comments, however it takes. Take your shot at stumping the guru. I love questions. I would love to be able to help. Namaste.
Ah, wonderful. Well, thank you for being here today, Jeff. And thank you for everybody who joined us. And we'll see you guys all again next week. Bye, everybody.